My suffering was of short duration, ending at the sound of a familiar voice. "My dear doctor, pray do not mourn my passing. I assure you I am quite unharmed, thanks to Elmo, whom Wilder directed here, arriving in the nick of time, who made two neat touches, Rattigan and myself." I looked up. Basil sat jauntily on one of the dog's front paws. He hopped off, and then the Saint Bernard put the professor down beside us. I could see Elmo's head and shoulders. He stood in the water, only a shadow streamed to a dog his size. I thanked him with all my heart. Young Richard and Lord Adrian went to the cave to free Maharaja. All the gangsters had fled. "No matter," said Basil. "The biggest prize will be sent back to England to stand trial for his crimes." Rattigan, tied with his own tail, shouted, "Bah! I'll escape. No jail on earth can hold me." Ignoring him, we built a chair for Rhoda. It had a railing and a canopy somewhat like a howdahs humans use for riding elephants. She rode it proudly on Elmo's back. The professor was lashed to his collar. Weeks later we learned of Rattigan's escape. A boulder had come crashing down in front of Elmo. He sprang back and his two passengers were thrown. The singer was in the tall grass unhurt, but the criminal had vanished. No doubt the accident had been staged so that Rattigan could be rescued. It was well that we did not know this until later, for we needed peace of mind for the hardship ahead. We were above snowline in wall of never-ending white. The sun glared so fiercely that we wore dark glasses to guard against blindness. Sometimes we would halt, spellbound by the wonders of this cold, white world. The slope of snow looked like the frosting on some giant birthday cake. Many a night shivering on a lonely peak, the wild wind screaming in my ears. I wondered if I ever see London again, and our cozy flat in Baker Street. I often dreamt of Mrs. Judson's cheese souffle. There was no sign of the snow mouse. A few Swiss began to doubt he existed, and thought of going back. It was Basil who rallied us during those dark hours. His will to go on in the face of overwhelming odds inspired us all. His courage was incredible. When we came to crevasses filled with huge ice blocks, it was Basil who went ahead to see whether those blocks would bear a mouse's weight. When we reached ice falls, Basil and Tillery risked their lives to cut steps with their ice axes, and the other expeditioners might ascend in safety. Climb, climb, climb. There were times when it seemed that we had spent a lifetime on the mountain. Basil sent advance teams out daily to leave supplies further up for those who would climb next. One day Basil and I went out as a team. We left supplies on a ledge and started back. It was like a touch of home to see his dear starter cap, which he wore over his snow helmet and goggles. "Look," he cried triumphantly, "mouse tracks." The tracks were wider and deeper than any we could have made. The snow mouse was nearby. Back at camp, the news lifted everyone's spirits, and in the morning Basil assigned 2 teams to find the elusive snow mouse. By late afternoon, light snowfall had become a blizzard, and we grew uneasy, concerned for the safety of our climbers. At last several weary figures staggered into camp, coughing and sneezing and sniffling. They had not found the snow mouse. Great gusts of wind and swirling snow had forced them to seek shelter under an overhanging ledge. It had not covered them completely, and all had caught a cold. I ordered them to lie down in the warmth of the cook tent. Dr. Wolf and I dosed them with pills. It was not our lucky day. A small snowslide cut a path through camp. With it went our largest case of cheese, now buried beneath tons of snow. This was serious. Our rations would be sliced in half, and if we did not soon succeed in our mission, we might be so weakened by insufficient cheese that we would have to turn back. The loss of uppermost in my mind when I fell asleep, and I had a most singular dream. I dreamed I was in London at a magnificent mouse ball. Trumpets blared and 20 teacups were trundled in, laden with cheeses from all lands. A duke announced grandly, Dr. David Q. Dawson will decide which of these cheese stands supreme. Lovingly I began my tasting. How fabulous the flavors! How heavenly the aromas! Gouda, Gruyere, Cheddar, Camembert, Chantal. A fever burned within me. I forgot everything but the bliss gobbling those glorious cheese. The great hall buzzed with angry voices. Remove the glutton. Is he a pig or a mouse? Shameful, shameful, disgrace. The Duke tugged my sleeve. Doctor, doctor. His voice grew louder. Dawson, Dr. Dawson. I paid no heed, and he shook my shoulders, screaming, My dear doctor. Then the scream became a whisper, Basil's whisper, and he was shaking me by the shoulder. My dear doctor, there is a midnight prowler about, none other than the adorable snow mouse.